big day yesterday.
Oh, huge
Didn't
day.
look so good early.
Right.
Here we are at noon in the East, and we're fighting back.
And day in and day out, we've seen this. I mean, you go back to last Friday, we're down a couple hundred points on a half day as well. But the volumes have not been there either, Scott. I mean, that's something that I think, everybody used to always bring up, you know what, it was an up day, but it doesn't really matter. It was low volume. Well, I'll tell you what, we've had low volume days on up and down over the last 3. It's been surprising to me how low we've been. Obviously, we had the Thanksgiving holiday. I get all of that. But coming in yesterday, you would have expected that volume, especially with that up 400, that there'd be a little bit more of emotion going in there and a lot more activity. We just weren't seeing that. And today, it's almost as if they swallowed this information. We sold off immediately, and then we've just been steadily coming back ever since. And when you look at the volatility index, we didn't get even close to last week's numbers around 23. The last day I was on the show with you guys, last Tuesday, we were at a 23 VIX. And today, we're sitting there floundering around that 19 level. So it's interesting to see the reaction that we're getting today, especially the early selling. But the fact that people stepped in and started buying a little bit of that, and that's why we're not down as much.
Steph, where are we on the question of a one-day bounce yesterday, or whether we've got a little bit something going for us now?
It's like an impossible question to answer.
An important one, though.
It is. I mean, all year long we've been talking about trade and the Fed and international growth slowing. And all year long I've said the thing that worries me the most is trade, because you have no idea if new tariffs getting put in place, what that means to earnings for next year. So initially, at the start of this year, we all thought 20% growth this year for earnings. Next year, maybe 10%. That number now looks like it's going to be 5%.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Morgan Stanley's looking at. We talked about that yesterday.
At the same time, multiples
4%.
I know. At the same time, multiples have come down from 19.5 to 15 times. So we are discounting a lot of bad news. And that's why you kind of have to ignore some of these days, these gyrations, and just kind of focus on fundamentals. And I've been nibbling at a couple of things, and I'll buy next week if we get a pullback, if we get more of these trades.
All right, Joe?
I think the market's beginning to absorb bad news better than it has in the last 6 to 8 weeks. I thought coming into today, given the news that we had presented with Apple, I thought you'd see a significant breakdown lower. You haven't seen that. To Pete's point, you're seeing a little bit of a recovery. I believe Apple is at a significant support area. I talked about that yesterday. 169.23. That is the low for the year.
We're at 173 and change now. You got that battle between Apple and Microsoft
and
now in that market cap.
Yesterday we got down to 170.26. Today you got to 170.88. Go back to May 1st on the earnings report. That's where you got the breakout in Apple from that level. So I think Apple's at a support level. Again, I don't think you're going to get significant participation in the market, but I'm comfortable with some small longs here.
Yeah. So Kevin O'Leary, tariffs are still a big part of the conversation, which, you've sided with the president's policy. We had another Dow component CEO come on the network this morning, talk about the negative impacts of tariffs. I want you to listen to what Greg Hayes of UTX had to say, and we'll kick it around on the other side.
Tariffs benefit no one, right? We're going to spend $150 million in the coming year to pay for these additional tariffs. Ultimately, tariffs become a tax on consumers, right? We've raised prices 3 times at Carrier this year to cover the tariff costs that were coming in. Tariffs don't bring jobs back. Tariffs don't accomplish what we're trying to supposedly accomplish.
You want to respond?
Well, there's 2 issues to Hayes. I'm a big supporter of him, and I'm a big believer in his guidance of his company, and I used to be a shareholder. I am no longer a shareholder. I don't like what he's doing in splitting into 3 pieces. That's a different issue, because I think that's going to incumbent us with more costs, more regulatory fees, more accountants, more bean counters, more people in the back room when I didn't need. When I buy air conditioning for a Shanghai tower and I buy an elevator, I don't need it to be from 2 companies. That's why this thing worked before. I don't like that vision. His comments about trade are off base. Here's why. Here's my opinion, okay? You asked me for an opinion, I'm giving it back to you. The upside of keeping the force on the Chinese, of squeezing Chinese head to get 2 things. I don't want my IP stolen anymore. I'm done with that, and nothing else has worked. Steve's going to be railing on me in a second, but I'm going to finish, okay? Secondly, the upside of what we get in earnings, if we get halfway there in the next year, is so profound that it's worth having this turbulence. It's turbulence. You're flying along, you're negotiating, you got turbulence. I don't care if we have to go from 10% upside on the S&P down to 5 for 12 months. If I can go up 15% as a result of settling with the Chinese.
Well, you're giving an opinion.
Squeeze Chinese. Keep squeezing.
I've heard your opinion from other people. It's to be respected. I get it. He's not giving an opinion. The guy's running UTX. He's giving you the fundamental story of what's happening to his company
His
as a
opinion
result
is
of the policy.
it's okay to keep going down the way we have it now with the Chinese, where they steal our IP and we don't give access to our markets. He should be concerned about that. I don't agree with him anymore. Finally, administration, I don't want to get into politics. Finally, after 12 years, somebody that says enough is enough. I suffer knockoffs on all my little American companies every day.
This guy's raised prices 3 years, says you can only raise prices so much. You got inflation issues that come into it. You got growth.
Judge, I'm on the IP theft thing. I'm not okay with it. I want it resolved. I'm not okay every time I bring a new product and innovation in one of my 100% domestic companies and it shows up on Amazon and it's a hit. 48 hours later, I got 5 knockoffs on Alibaba. I'm not okay with it anymore.